Because crimes against humanity are when you attack innocent civilians at that state level. So you've got to ask the question, Orina, why would the police shoot dead Samuel, shoot dead of the others who have been killed in cold blood? You've got to understand in the disciplined forces, you have a chain of command. The police do not just wake up and shoot on their own accord, because those are disciplined forces. They follow a chain of command. These orders came from somewhere higher than them. They came from somewhere. Now, when you're looking at that and you begin to understand that orders were given at the highest level to shoot and kill innocent and armed civilians, my prayer is that people can then look at that gravity. The AU has outlived its usefulness. You know, the AU in its current formation, Orina, the African Union in its current formation, is no longer helping Africa.
Recently, you've been doing a lot of reporting on Tanzania.
Yeah.
Very sad. Thousands of people dead. All because of power. Or because you want to remain in power.
Yeah.
And, you know, DJ, let me tell you something. I always say this. There's no reason why you should kill somebody because of power.
Absolutely.
Because you're not going to be there forever.
Absolutely. We're all mortal. Yeah.
Why are you killing people to remain in power?
Doesn't make sense.
What do you think about this whole Tanzania thing?
Yeah, Tanzania, there are several layers. There are several layers there, but the first thing that we have to do when you're talking about Tanzania is the Northern Star at this stage. The Northern Star, the thousands of people who have died. And I like mentioning their names, you know, people like Samuel Mgimwa, a young 24-year-old university student who was also a gospel musician, you know, who, when 29th happened, you know, that election day, he decided later in the afternoon to go buy some food from a neighborhood kiosk, not even a supermarket or anything. Go buy some food so that he can stock up, because he was the firstborn in that family. So he was just doing a responsible thing that any firstborn or any parent would do, to stock up on food in case there's gonna be problems. So he goes to buy food, Samuel, 24 years old. And then as he's buying food, the police come and they shoot him dead. Now, what was really tragic about him, just like the others, they first of all shot him in the stomach. And the wound was so gaping that his intestines spilled out. And when the natural reflex of him bending to hold that place, now they shot him again in the buttocks. And I mention that graphic detail so that people can see the sheer cruelty and inhumanity, not of terrorists or some unknown assailants, but the state police itself. Now, once you understand who is the perpetrator here, who is the murderer, and understand that Samuel is not armed, he's a civilian. Now, what happened to Samuel is the classic textbook definition of crimes against humanity. Because crimes against humanity are when you attack innocent civilians at that state level. So you've got to ask the question, Orina, why would the police shoot dead Samuel, shoot dead the 20,000 plus of the others who have been killed in cold blood? You've got to understand in the disciplined forces, you have a chain of command. The police do not just wake up and shoot on their own accord, because those are disciplined forces. They follow a chain of command. These orders came from somewhere higher than them. They came from somewhere. Now, when you're looking at that and you begin to understand that orders were given at the highest level to shoot and kill innocent and armed civilians, my prayer is that people can then look at that gravity. And anybody watching this must be able to understand that if you take only one thing from the Tanzania massacre, remember the name Samuel, because the problem sometimes, Orina, of data and statistics is that sometimes it becomes mind-boggling. Like when you're told that in El Fasher, northern Darfur in Sudan, when you're told that the Rapid Support Forces in a singular day killed 2,000 people because they look like you and I, we do not want a situation where people feel sympathy, but the gravity of the crime is so heinous, it's so big that you cannot even relate with it beyond the initial shock. We don't want that at all. That's why we must put names and faces and stories to this data. We have to give it that human face. We have to personalize it. And my prayer is that when you understand that a young 24-year-old called Samuel, who was just a gospel singer, was shot in cold blood and killed, that whatever other disagreements we have, even those who think that foreigners are being paid, whatever other disagreements, I'd want to bring them back to Samuel. Mgimwa. That's not an invention. Anybody can Google online and you'll see his face. If you're in Tanzania, you can go to his university and you'll confirm he's a real human being who lived and was murdered. So there are several such stories. There's Tina, a 22-year-old truck driver who was shot on her way to the yard where the trucks are parked. Now, we have to humanize all the tragedies in Africa. We need something similar in Darfur.
Yes.
We need something similar in Congo. We need something similar in the Sahel. We have to stop looking at this as just blanket figures. We've got to understand that these are fellow Africans. These are someone's daughter, someone's son, someone's husband, someone's parent. These are real people like you and I. So when they're exposed to such heinous crimes, once you understand it at that personal level, that is why, my brother, I am doubling down on Tanzania, because if we get Tanzania right this time round, it means that there will be no Kenya following the footsteps of Tanzania. It means that we will look back at Congo and we will now have a collective approach of ensuring that peace can finally prevail in Congo. Because look at it this way, we are at a time in the Democratic Republic of Congo where the Qataris and the Americans are the ones on the forefront of seeking for peace in Congo, but for their own ulterior motives. So you and I have to step in. DJ and Orina and all other Africans must say that I am going to make Congo my problem. And I'm not going to stop at the place of saying that the problem in Congo is Kagame. Yes, there's the M23 stuff, and Rwanda must completely address this M23 business. We cannot absolve it at all.
True.
But what we are saying is that it is not enough anymore for you and I to just point out that that is the problem and then say that the imperialist Chinese and French and all these others are the problem, because that's not news for you and I. For others, it is. And by all means, we have to keep educating others. But now you and I and others in our positions have a responsibility to ask the question, what role do we now play to bring peace in Congo? Because if we do that, and that's why I'm focusing on Tanzania, if we also do that for Congo and we do that for the Sahel, then we are going to have the African people finally taking charge, fully taking charge and realizing that, yes, we've been messed up here in Africa, but the responsibility now falls on us to change that story.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you think about, Chadema being banned from contesting and Tundu Lissu being detained? All these things. If you're confident that you're going to win, then you should be afraid of your competitor. You know, just let the competitor compete. If you win, fine. If you lose, then go. But you don't have to, you know, because I'd like to think that Tanzania is a democracy. Why don't you just let democracy work? What do you think about, you know, about Tundu Lissu and Chadema being banned from contesting in the election?
Yeah, you know, one of the favorite weapons for all despots, whether it's in Africa or outside Africa, but more so here in Africa, because that's where our focus is to minimize competition as much as possible, which is why sometimes they go as far as killing people, you know, not even arresting, but killing. There are multiple cases in the history of Africa where Africans who could have taken on the president or who appeared promising were then taken out. There are two things I'd like to say about Chadema and Tundu Lissu. That number one, Paul Biya did the same thing. In Cameroon. They also barred Issa, not even Issa, the main opposition candidate. He was also barred from running. Same thing happened in Cote d'Ivoire. Yeah, Alassane Ouattara. Yeah, also barred the two leading candidates, including the former presidents Laurent Gbagbo, from running. So it was not isolated to Tanzania, and that does not excuse it. The fact that it's happened in other countries in the month of October and this year does not excuse the fact that it is completely unacceptable. However, Orina, I'd like to also bring in this second layer. A despot, a president who has gone to the lengths of barring their opponents from running, we can no longer waste energy trying to make them change, trying to tell them that this is not democratic, don't do this, because it's who they are. It's just who they are. What we have to do is to marshal our resources, marshal our energies, marshal every tool in our toolbox to ensure that such a regime gets out of power. That's where all our energies have to be focused. And I'm not even talking about coup d'etat in this scenario. If it's a tool in the toolbox of the electorate, and the army is usually part of, the armies are citizens, they're not foreigners from Mars. So if the electorate, if citizens in a country look at that as a tool they can use, then all power to them. But what I'm referring to in this scenario is massive national grassroots uprising that metamorphoses into a revolution. Now, here's the difference. The people of Africa have to understand that there's a world of a difference between uprising and revolution. Often we have uprising, but it never grows into revolution. Uprising is like what happened in 2024 here in Kenya, there were the Gen Z protests. They even went into parliament. They forced an entire government, you know, to those ministers to be sacked and everything. The argument can be made that, okay, they still came back through other channels. But the point is that there was an uprising that resulted in change. However, this is where the rubber meets the road. It's only a revolution that delivers systemic change. An uprising can at best deliver regime change. But Africa's problems go beyond regime change. For example, in Kenya, there was a time people thought that the moment Moi stops being president, Kenya will become, an amazing
country.
Completely, you see. And it was all about Moi. Even there was that song that Moi must go, everything is possible without Moi, that has been adapted for all subsequent regimes that people don't like. So you see, there was a regime change. Moi went, Kibaki came in, but did Kenya's problems end?
No.
They didn't. The argument can be made that if anything, now we started having mega state corruption because Anglo-leasing happened under Kibaki. Yeah, the problem in Kenya is that the bar of good leadership is so low that Mwai Kibaki then appears like the greatest president on the face of the earth. But it's just because the bar is extremely low Because if you isolate Anglo-leasing, you'll understand how Anglo-leasing became the parent of subsequent mega-state corruptions in Kenya. You see, because Anglo-leasing showed the Kibaki regime and subsequent regimes that you can mix mega development with mega corruption. You see, so that any project that they want to do here, to date, any big project in Kenya and in Africa is always embraced by regimes, because the bigger the money to fund the project, the bigger the money that will be pocketed. You see, and that was really, really normalized in that Kibaki regime during the Anglo-leasing. But it's because the people of Kenya were so fed up. If you've been in a bad relationship, I don't know that this show addresses relationships.
No. This is a political Pan-African show.
Yeah. But I mentioned that because almost every human being has at some point been in a relationship that wasn't the best.
Yeah.
Now, the worse the relationship, sometimes the more vulnerable the parties in that relationship are, because it means that whichever future partner will be marginally better than this toxic relationship, you'll jump into that.
Yeah.
But ordinarily, you shouldn't, because they may be marginally better, but if they still don't measure up to a healthy relationship, then you have no business doing that.
The bar is low.
Exactly. So similarly, we have to understand that Africa has reached a place where it is no longer just about regime change. It is about systemic change. So if I channel that to the case of Tanzania, now Chadema must look beyond Samia. Chadema has to look beyond Samia. They have to multitask at the same time that they're calling for regime change, because we are calling for a caretaker government to take over in Tanzania through the proper international legal channels, so that caretaker government can then oversee free and fair elections. Now, somebody may say, but why didn't you call for the same, like in Kenya or other African countries, Uganda, where they didn't also have free and fair elections? It is because you didn't have thousands of people getting killed. This regime didn't just steal elections, they killed people. And those are crimes against humanity. So any regime, irrespective of where they are, as long as they have perpetrated crimes against humanity, they have no business being in government. So Chadema, we are articulating that, but hopefully Chadema, act as a lend on any other parties there, should really articulate that. But my point is that they should not stop at that. Because it's so easy to, yes, Samia Suluhu was gone. Thank God she's gone. Justice has started to be, the people who died and their families have started receiving justice. But if people in Tanzania also do not address of what comes after Suluhu, what kind of constitutional dispensation do the people of Tanzania want? Number one, of course, they need a brand new constitution. That goes without saying. Because the current constitution, you cannot even challenge presidential election results. You know that.
Really?
And it's in the constitution.
You can't go petition like the way we did
here
in Kenya?
You can't.
I didn't know that.
You can't.
Oh.
You can't completely. You see. So, the constitution must change. They need a constitution 2.0 in Tanzania. And that's okay. Even if there was no bloodshed, countries reach a place where things are so different, they need a new constitutional dispensation. But as they address that, look at Kenya with a new constitution. You see? So that's what I mean by systemic change. At that constitutional level, at the mindset level, there must be massive political education, massive civic education, so that if Tanzania understands that this is a rebirth moment for them, it's completely a rebirth moment.
A total new page.
Yeah. And that only happens like you and I will never know what it means to have labor pains.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But one day, those who have had them can attempt to explain. And what we will understand is that imagine if women, God bless them, reached a place and said, I no longer want to feel this pain. Let the baby just die. You know, we would have gone extinct. Eh? Yeah. But they have to endure those pains because it's part of the birthing process. So similarly, my brother, when we are saying that a country needs rebirth, that Tanzania, this is Tanzania's rebirth moment, it's going to be painful, man. And things may get worse before they get better. It is not going to be an issue of sitting in a boardroom and then arguing over legalistic issues. Even more important is the people of Tanzania, the more than 60 million people of Tanzania, must be part of that rebirth process. They must be part of that rebirth process, and they must agree to disagree. They must look, the other day you may have seen that I actually posed a question. What does Yugoslavia teach Tanzania? You know, Yugoslavia broke up into 6 countries. There used to be a country called Yugoslavia. But sometimes in the, I believe, early 80s or mid 80s, this country broke up into 6 countries. Slovenia, Serbia, Macedonia, you know. All those 6 countries were originally part of one country called Yugoslavia. You see? So Tanzania must have a very difficult conversation, for example, that is it time to relook at the Zanzibar-Tanganyika Union? Because before 1964, there was no Tanzania at all. Many people who are not Tanzanian don't know that. Before 1964, there was just Tanganyika, the mainland, and Zanzibar. And then Mwalimu Nyerere and Sheikh Abed Karume, the leader of Zanzibar, they, in their own wisdom, marshaled, you know, their respective citizenry to then form one union called Tanzania. But it's a very complicated arrangement because Zanzibar has its own president.
Okay.
And the current president of Zanzibar is Mwinyi, is the son of the first president, the second president of Tanzania. After Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, there was Ali Hassan Mwinyi. Now, the current president in Zanzibar is the son of that Mwinyi, and he has his own cabinet and everything. But Tanganyika, the former Tanganyika, now the mainland Tanzania, it's not like they have their own separate president. Do you see that potential confusion?
Yeah. So is the Zanzibar president under Samia?
Exactly.
Okay.
He's under Samia. But when they look at the new constitutional dispensation that they want or they need in the country, they really have to ask that hard question, because some people have been saying that some of the special forces who worked alongside the police to kill people in cold blood were mostly from Zanzibar. Of course, some of these things can never be verified unless there's proper judicial investigation that is not led by the current administration.
Of course.
Samia Suluhu herself is from Zanzibar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you see, there's that feeling of, number one, you're not even from Tanganyika mainland. And most of these thousands of people who have been killed, if not all, are from Tanganyika mainland because there was no shooting in Zanzibar, you know. So for now, those are undercurrents. But I kid you not, they will have to be addressed because blood has been shed. So they will have to look at the fact of, do we want a different form of union as the United Republic of Tanzania? Do we want to maintain the status quo? Or do we want to go the Yugoslavia way? You know, do we just want to let people go back to their respective pre-1964 entities?
Which way is better, according to you?
That's a question that would actually go back to the heart of what does unity in Africa mean? Yeah, because Mwalimu Julius Nyerere believed in incremental African unity, that eventually, let us first of all get our affairs together as respective African countries, then we can unite. But a guy I guess you look up to a lot, the first president of Ghana, believed in instant unity. He was not for this business of incremental unity. He wanted instant unity. But in those early years of the early 60s, there wasn't much support for instant unity, partly because some countries were still colonized, countries like Zimbabwe, but also because people like Nyerere felt that let us first of all have strong countries, and then now we can look at a united Africa. For me, why I refer to that in answer to your question is Tanganyika and Zanzibar, we have to answer the question, have they been stronger together or not? And personally, I think from a subjective level, without having that lived experience, I think that it has been better to have the United Republic of Tanzania. However, it is now clear that there were no safeguards that were put in place, to ensure that people of either entity do not feel like they are being shortchanged. You see, because currently the people of Tanganyika, many of them are feeling that they are being shortchanged. You see, so the Tanzania experiment will have to show us, and will have to trigger that conversation of what kind of unity is needed in Africa. What kind of unity will solve Africa's current problems?
It's a microcosm of how we can unite as 54 African states.
Exactly. But if I say something quickly on that, because if there's anything that has keeps me up at night, it's actually that issue. And I am persuaded, my brother, that the secret lies in making these borders increasingly irrelevant. It is not about getting lost in the legalities and the political complications of how then do we elect that singular president. And one of the things we can do, because we're being very practical, is that Pan-Afrikan currency. It's about time we actualize that.
That's the number one thing we should do.
It's the number one. And in 1991, there was already in Abuja, the original Organization of African Unity, already passed. Actually, the Pan-Afrikan currency has already been operationalized. In Abuja in 1991, they passed that. A few years later, I think 1994, there was more than 3/4 of the countries in Africa ratified it. They ratified the need for a Pan-Afrikan currency. It's there. It's only that after 1994, after now the requisite number of countries ratified the Pan-Afrikan currency, now after that, the presidents who have been there have just not fully operationalized it. So that has just been lost completely.
But why though?
And the solution to that, and I've been calling for that, let us really amplify this. In the 2027 elections in Kenya and all other elections before then, or in 2027, we are agitating to have referendums on the people of Africa to vote and compel whoever wins presidency to actually begin operationalizing the Pan-Afrikan currency. Because to the extent that it is not subjected to the African people, the politicians can just play around with that. But if we are having elections and then we add to that a question as a referendum during that electoral process, so there's no extra money being spent. So imagine a situation where in September 2027, there's news reports all over Africa that the people of Kenya have voted overwhelmingly for the Pan-Afrikan currency. You see, that's the kind of momentum that now will force
other countries to do so.
And whoever then wins the Kenyan presidential election it forces him or her to actually provide leadership on that. Because why I'm really, really particular on that is if we successfully have a Pan-African currency, if you can travel to Nigeria and use the same money, you don't have to change to no dollars and then change again from dollars to naira. Number one, we save a lot of money. But number two, that's the kind of unity I'm looking at in Africa. I'm not looking at the complicated aspects of
who will be president.
Who's going to be president. Because that will just never see the light of day. If we have a singular currency, if other countries then follow Kenya's example, and I believe Rwanda, there are a number of African countries that now are visa-free. They are largely visa-free, so that you can wake up tomorrow and if you want to go to Benin, you go to Benin. You don't have to look for a visa from the French embassy because it's really complicated.
Crazy,
So imagine if it is one currency. Imagine if you can travel to any part of this continent without needing a visa. Imagine that you can sell anything in Africa without having to pay tax wherever that commodity passes. See, imagine that you can decide to go to Congo Brazzaville tomorrow and work. You don't even need a permit. You just maybe need something very basic, so that the people of Congo, the government of Congo can know that you are actually there. See, if these things I've said, if they're happening, we will not even argue about, do we want a united Africa with a singular Trump-like president? Because we will have rendered those borders irrelevant. Imagine also if you can hop into the train in Nairobi and 2 days later you're in Dakar, the farthest part of the west coast of Africa. You can hop into a bus in Kampala and 1 day later you're in Cape Town or in Cairo. You see? Now, if we become preoccupied with stuff like that, and I guarantee you, Orina, we do not even need World Bank or IMF to fund such a project. I've done the calculations and the money that we lose through corruption every year is enough to build a Trans-African railway, a Trans-African highway. Now, if that infrastructure is in place, do you know it will even address the issue of conflict? Because if there's a high-speed train passing through the Democratic Republic of Congo on its way to Dakar, then the conflict in Congo becomes literally Africa's problem now. Because you don't want to hop into the train and then you can't pass through Congo.
So now you're forced to deal with it.
Exactly.
I think that's what African presidents don't want.
Exactly.
Maybe that's why they're scared of the open border. Because they don't want the responsibility of Kenya, or, for example, Kenya, helping Sudan, because Sudan is just north.
Exactly.
Or helping Congo. Congo is on the west.
Exactly.
I think African leaders are scared of that because they're like, that's your problem. You deal with it. And that's a good approach. That's a good approach. The more we open, now you'll be forced to deal with it.
Exactly.
If you don't want refugees to come to your country, if you don't want, if you don't want, basically, I think what they fear is refugees. Deal with it so that there's peace. The countries are back to normal. And exactly. You know what? That's and like here in Nairobi, if you go to the second-hand market, Gikomba, you'll find that a massive percentage of the traders there are from Tanzania, specifically the Chaga community. So for them, they're already living the Pan-African reality. We really have to move beyond theory to practice. Because the problem we have, even amongst a lot of fellow Pan-Africanists or fellow historians, is sometimes you get lost in the theory of it. And then for the governments, they get lost in the bureaucracy of it. But there are Africans who are
who have taken matters into their own hands. These people, because of them on what they're doing in this second-hand market, a lot of Kenyans are able to go and buy that the second-hand produce. You see? So we have to operationalize that, and we have to be solution-oriented in that regard. And this is what I meant by saying that we do not have the luxury, you and I, of just looking at the diagnosis alone. That's why we're saying, in the case of Tanzania, that yes, thousands have been killed. We're humanizing that completely. We're making it personal.
Yeah.
And beyond that, we're saying that the practical solution is a caretaker government, because a government that has committed crimes against humanity cannot investigate itself. It's completely impossible, It's totally impossible. That cannot happen. So you and I must then, and anybody else who is focusing on Tanzania, must then be very practical and say that, can we have a caretaker government? This is a global precedent of what has happened before. What will it take for that to happen? And then Chadema, because you had asked me about Tundu Lissu and Chadema.
Yes.
Chadema must smell the coffee and realize that now they have a responsibility to provide leadership on all these things I'm saying. Because if they get lost only in the fact that our leader is in prison and they spend 90% of their energy on constantly reminding us on how evil this regime is, we know that, man. We already know that it's a very evil regime. We know he's in prison. So we are saying, as they do that, as they shine a spotlight on the injustice of their leader being barred from the electoral process, they must also provide leadership on the way forward. Exactly what I'm saying. They must be the ones to, even as some of us, educate the masses, they, as Tanzanians in Tanzania, they must be able to also provide leadership for these people, for the amazing people of Tanzania, so that they are saying, guys, this is what it takes to have a caretaker government, legally speaking. You see? And then channeling a lot of energies on that, helping people of Tanzania to understand that we cannot normalize what happened. We can't sanitize it. We can't just allow the regime to buy time and then life goes on, because the blood does not forget. My message to the people of Tanzania and the people of Africa is that blood does not forget. Once you spill it, you have to deal with it.
It will haunt you for the rest of your life.
You totally have to deal with it. So if they just bury this, then what will happen is that there will be a situation where, how a river never forgets its wherever it passes. That's why a lot of times when there's flooding, sadly people die, but a lot of times it's because due to corruption, houses were built where a river used to pass. You see? So the day the river remembers and goes back there, you're going to face the music. And for blood, it is worse. It may take 5 years, it may take 10 years, but this blood of these thousands of people that has been spilled, if we don't address their justice now, and I'm not even talking, from the aspect of ghosts and what have you, it is just the way it is that either the people of Tanzania and us standing with them deal with this issue now in a procedural and peaceful but decisive manner, or it will still have to happen, because when Yugoslavia broke into those 6 countries, so many people died. So many people died, because even then they were not able to deal with that like they should have properly. So we don't want that situation where 20 years from now, or however long from now, there is a crazy scenario in that place. Because I have to remind you that 31 years ago, the people who have died in Congo had not died. It's because we in Africa were not able to deal with Congo decisively like we should have, that we then allowed different regional players and global players, beneficiaries of the bloodshed in Congo, to ensure that the bloodshed never ends, because they're beneficiaries. So similarly, if we don't handle Tanzania decisively, properly, now, then what happened in Congo becomes a template of what will then happen in Tanzania. Yeah.
Wow. What are your final words? Because, but there's one thing that I was disgusted about the AU, how they, and actually, Prof. PLO said it, he said it on the show.
Yeah.
They always send congratulatory messages to Paul, even they sent it to Paul Biya, knowing that Paul Biya didn't win that election.
Yeah.
And to Samia also.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is wrong with these people?
Yeah.
And even Prof said in the show, whenever an election is controversial, don't move quick to say congratulations to President So-and-so. No.
Yeah.
Actually, you should be the one on the ground trying to see what's going on.
What's going on, yeah.
What are you congratulating? You know very well that there's something wrong. You don't even need to be there.
Exactly.
To know that something is wrong with these elections.
Exactly.
Yeah. I feel like the AU is what do you think? Because to me, I think the AU is not helping us.
I'll put it bluntly. I'll just put it bluntly. The AU has outlived its usefulness. The AU in its current formation, Orina, the African Union in its current formation is no longer helping Africa. It's just no longer helping Africa. So the AU needs to be disbanded and to be born afresh. But for that to happen, it will take a brave African country to voluntarily say that they are withdrawing their membership from AU. Because the AU, when there's a coup d'etat, like the case with the Sahel states, they suspend them. They have not expelled them, but they suspended them. But now we need a country to voluntarily say, a country like Botswana, actually I challenge Botswana, do Maboko, or Namibia,
Nandi.
Exactly. We need a country like that is peaceful, that there has been no coup d'etat, so they are not in the bad books of the AU. We need them to say, unless ABCD happens, we are withdrawing our membership from the AU, because that will trigger a chain reaction that might then lead to the disbandment that I'm talking about. In the absence of that, we at least need referendum. If Duma Boko, feels like it's too diplomatically complicated, then there needs to be a referendum in Botswana or in Kenya, so that you and I, the African people themselves, can vote and say, we no longer want to be in the AU unless ABCD happens. You see? So for now, the main tool that we have is we have to continue making it clear without sugarcoating that in its current formation, the AU is just not useful for the people of Africa completely. And I would pose the same challenge even to the Alliance of Sahel States, because I like that they're uniting, they have a joint passport, they are working towards a monetary union. I like that for them, it is one for all for one, So if that can concentrically spread to the rest of Africa, great. But you and I know, we all know that it will be a cold day in hell before other African countries voluntarily accept to join AES. It's not going to happen. So what then should happen? AES must continue providing extremely decisive leadership. Like, I would really, really be heartened and happy if AES as an entity actually speaks out extremely forcefully on the Tanzania scenario, on El Fasher, extremely forcefully beyond, if there's an interview, then, you squeeze it in. I would want them to just come out and say that as AES, our policy, we do not recognize Samia Suluhu Hassan because of ABCD. Because after all, even then they were kicked out of AU. AU did not apply any diplomacy on them. They just kicked them out. So they have nothing to lose. Imagine if they say tomorrow that we do not recognize Samia Suluhu Hassan because of this and this. We completely castigate Mohammed Dagalo, Hamdan Dagalo Hemeti, leader of RSF. Yeah. We completely disassociate with him. We look at him as a reincarnation of the devil because he has overseen the killing of black people in a genocide.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So we need AES to also speak out extremely forcefully on that. And as that happens, we, the ordinary African people, must never forget that we are the ones with the power. And as long as our voice doesn't go silent, as long as we keep reaching out to each other like we are doing, we will still figure out what more needs to be done. We cannot have a defeatist mentality. And we are the ones to totally change Africa.